be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the sixth part of, What If Hazbin Hotel meets JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of WriteAnon on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Is it you? Kira sputtered, a clot of blood spraying from his mouth as he spoke. Jotaro Kujo? Seriously, who? A guy who beat me up a few times. Now, quiet. The demon paused, his breathing sharpened. What did you say? Kira took the opening and used his last bit of strength to launch sheer heart attack. The automated bomb now manifested as a small blue skeletal turtle, but Kira wasn't picky. It roared and launched itself at his enemy. The giant demon smirked and pointed at the incoming bomb. It froze in mid-air, frozen in a tiny isolated bubble of stop time. Kira gasped, not even Jotaro could do that. You send toys to defeat me, Holy Diver? Holy Diver laughed, drawing both his fists back before unleashing a furious barrage of punches to the little turtle. His brow furrowed as the pummeling continued. He intensified his barrage, kicking and kneeing the frozen creature. Eventually his smirk became a scowl and he broke off the attack to find sheer heart attack little worse for wear. Humph, impressive. Am I correct in assuming that this is also some manner of erasing weapon, like you used before on Anubis and the other peon? Kira didn't answer. Holy Diver raised his hand and a throwing knife appeared in it. He stabbed the glittering blade into sheer heart attack with tremendous force. The otherworldly metal scored its shell but little else. A small cut appeared in Kira's hand. Interesting, your connection with this stand is weak but its power is outstanding. Tell me, what is its range? Kira said nothing. Holy Diver flicked his wrist and the knife whistled through the air, stopping only a centimeter from Kira's left eye. You made me late for an opera and killed one of my top assassins. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't spend the next several years killing you. There was no doubt in Kira's mind that Holy Diver meant every word. This was a being of gargantuan patience and cruelty. If he was indeed in hell, there was no telling what horrors awaited him. Kill me and you walk away from this late to an opera and down an assassin. Kira grit his teeth and forced himself to smile. Consider this my resume. Holy Diver eyed Kira up for a moment before smiling and laughing. Ho ho. Not 5 minutes in hell and you attack its future king, kill his soldiers, and demand a job. Such brass. Such boldness. Very well, resume accepted. What is your name? Yashikage Kira. Holy Diver did a double take. You wouldn't happen to be related to Yoshihiro Kira, would you? My father. Gravity. This was ordained, my friend. Holy Diver clapped his hands together, a sound not unlike a thunder crack, and chuckled. In life, your father was an employee of mine. No doubt he gave you your stand with one of my arrows. How fitting that I, in life, would grant him the means to provide me a powerful warrior to aid me in death. That was a lot to take in. What? The next instant they were in his car. Kira was clothed in a dapper Valentino suit, his wounds were cleaned and bandaged, his ribs and other broken bones reset and splinted, the sweet warmth of opiates flowed through his veins. He sighed and leaned back into the pillowy seats of the limo, just then noticing the drink in his hand, scotch. From the smell it was a single malt, probably very expensive. Holy Diver sat opposite him, taking up an entire 4-person couch. His skull-faced henchman glared at Kira from across the cabin, his hands, visible once more, folded neatly across his lap. "Now," Holy Diver said, sipping from his glass. "Do you like opera, Mr. Clean?" "And from there on out, my life was his to command," said Kira. "I lived in opulence, working tirelessly to see that his enemies disappeared, that fear was rampant, and that his books were balanced. But there was no peace in it, no plateau. Every neighborhood taken, every borough conquered, every gang exterminated, there would always be more. More and more. I only wanted a peaceful life, one free of conflict and stress, but Holy Diver only wanted constant struggle and bloodshed, more opportunities to dominate and destroy. The days following the purge of 16 was the closest to happy I've been since coming here." Angel shuddered, a cold chill working his way up his spine. "SHT, no doubt. The guy sounds terrifying. How does he do all that SHT? His power on Earth was to stop time and move within it. As I understand it, his demonic form allows him complete mastery of time within a certain radius." "Yeah, okay, but how? The only thing I do know is that the one reason he hasn't attacked this place yet is because of—" Charlie strolled into the rec room, a sprightly spring in her step. Angel resumed playing the game. "Good morning everyone. Sorry about earlier, just some philosophical differences, it's okay now." "Her. How are— oh, my God, what are you doing?" Charlie said as Angel ripped off a Hell Knight's jaw and threw it across the screen. Kira looked up at her, his expression flat. "Punishing hell." "Duh," Angel said, smirking as a chainsaw growled over the thick splattering of mulched tissue. "I don't remember buying this," said Charlie as she tried very hard not to look at the screen. "Since when do we have a game console?" I know." Angel shrugged. "It just sort of appeared on the coffee table, right killer?" Kira nodded. "Yes, there was this flash of red light and there it was. A bit peculiar, in retrospect." Charlie gasped, her eyes wide. "Really?" "PFT, no," Angel scoffed. Kira shot her a wry smile. "Razzle and Dazzle bought it the other day." "Oh," said Charlie, somewhat embarrassed. "Well, turn it off. It's time for therapy. Today, we're going to try a hobby swap. This is plenty therapeutic." Angel said, grinning. "I think I found my new heroine." Kira grunted in assent, a dull wet crunch sounded from the TV. "I killed a punk kid like that, once." "Well, killed, the little SHT didn't stay dead." Charlie reached over and turned the console off despite their protests. "I don't think this game is good for either of you. Now, come along, I've got a whole day planned." Footsteps echoes up the dark stairway, the low, soft light of the sequenced candelabras cast long shadows across the hewn stone of the old castle walls. He ascended the staircase in a slow, cautious manner, sure to allow his distinct, deliberate steps to announce his approach. He stood before the elaborately decorated red mahogany door. The approacher, a tall, horned, skull-faced demon paused for a moment, listening. A voice sounded from the other side. It carried the high angry notes of an infuriated woman. His lord was entertaining a guest. Upon closer listening, her easily recognizable voice identified her as a powerful and influential media mogul. "I know you surround yourself with a low sort, but do try and keep your dogs on a leash." Katie Killjoy crowed. "Tell them to stop attacking my camera crews. They've endangered 2 sets of very expensive equipment." "Mind your tone, Harridan." The equally shrill but familiar voice said, "Boadicea the witch. My lord Holy Diver has magnanimously granted you an audience. Show your gratitude and stop wasting his time with your petty nonsense." "Oh, shut it, you groveling hag." Katie snarled. "And you. I promised you prime coverage, you promised me ratings. I can't very well hold up my end of the bargain if your hired filth keep breaking my cameras." He couldn't help himself. This harpy had the nerve to address his lord with such flippancy, such disrespect. His hand brushed the doorknob before he remembered himself once more. That holy diver had not yet put an angelic blade through her heart suggested that he took no offense at her hideous etiquette. He would wait. Before he could blink he was in the throne room, standing next to Killjoy, who recoiled with a start. Who? His MSTR sat upon his throne, he gestured, beckoning. You have news, Crossroads. I do, my lord, he said, brushing past Killjoy. Mr. Clean has been definitively located. It will interest you to know that he's been seen in the company of the heiress. Mr. Clean. Katie gasped, a grimace of horror on her face, but an excited, predatory gleam in her eyes. He's real. What a scoop. If you could fix us up for an interview. Ms. Killjoy, this is a sensitive matter, Holy Diver said, casually, waving goodbye at her. If you'll excuse us. Oh, no you don't. She vanished mid-sentence, to where Crossroads did not know, nor did he care. Finally. Boadicea, a cloud of writhing silver smoke in the shape of a gaunt young woman, said. Disrespectful little bee. It would bring me so much joy to see her broken and humiliated before you for such impudence. I enjoy her drive, her single-mindedness. She's a creature of great ambition and will. I can respect that, said Holy Diver, chuckling. Besides, who better to herald my arrival? Let it be known that none of our number are to harm or allow to come to harm any equipment or associated personnel of Channel 666. It will be done, my lord. Boadicea genuflected and turned to Crossroads. Where are my 4 lieutenants? Should they not give their reports in person? Crossroads glanced between her and Holy Diver. Against orders, they confronted Mr. Clean in order to apprehend him and bring him to you. There was a pause, Holy Diver's breathing sharpened, quickened, before returning to its normal clock-like rhythm. Who's left? All of them, my lord, said Crossroads. In fact, they claim that they gravely injured him, and would have been victorious had. Is it a victory if I did not demand it? Holy Diver growled. I ordered them to find him. To report on his location. To open a dialogue if possible. Nothing more. If they won a battle I did not condone, could it possibly be called a victory? No, my lord, Crossroads said, bowing. It would be insubordination. And they lost. Insubordination and defeat. 2 insults upon my reputation. That fool. A son will brave any hardship for the approval of his father, Boadicea said, soberly. Take any chance, seize any opportunity, risk his very life if it will raise him up in his father's eyes. If the father is worthy, Holy Diver grumbled. Status? Bug Boogie and God-given are unconscious and bedridden, Poker Face and Moonshine are conscious but out of action. Doctors estimate 4 days for a full recovery, my lord. But the matter remains of what's to be done with Mr. Clean, said Boadicea. It stands to reason that he's unwilling to return to your glorious service, my lord. For that dishonor alone he should be made example of, Crossroads growled. Truly. My lord, please, allow me to send my son to dispose of this loose end. Mr. Clean wouldn't be troubled by that indiscreet buffoon. Please, my lord, send me. No one else in your service stands a chance, especially now that he knows we're after him. Holy Diver held up his hand, silencing them. He will be dealt with in time. For now, we wait. His eyes opened, it was bright enough to make him squint. Where was he? The room was sparse, austere, with little else in it but a door, a chair, the bed he was in, and a desk with a television on it. His thoughts were slow, sludgy, the inside of his head felt like pudding. He centered his breathing, inhaling and exhaling, pumping oxygen to the still slumbering parts of his brain. It would not do for a man of his talents and background to languish in bed for so long, whatever those talents and background were. He presently couldn't recall the specifics, but there was little doubt in his heart that he was a man of means, a man of standing. Slowly but surely, memories began to resurface. A road? a bridge? An overpass. Yes. An overpass. Others were there, people he trusted, and others too, a stranger and a demon. A tormentor. A devil. He held this man in particular regard for some reason. This figure burned in his mind like an ember. Who was he? The door opened and in walked a fish demon. His huge, muscular bulk took up much of the room as he stooped and turned sideways to enter. In his hands was a tray and on it was a bowl, a juice box, and a styrofoam cup. The fish demon's quartet eyes locked onto him and lit up like he'd seen an old friend. "GG!" he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his snout. "You're up. GG. GG, God-given. His name, his here name. He had another, but that was from before, from elsewhere, a shameful name. Here he was God-given, someone of repute, someone of means, someone respected and renowned. Someone feared. God-given was the man to know. He was God-given. The fish demon glowed in his murky memories as a man of integrity, someone he could trust. A man with a name. Moonshine. Yeah. Moonshine said, grinning happily as he limped over to the bedside. Sorry I didn't get you anything. The docs went and said you wouldn't wake up for a few days. Figures you'd show who's boss. Of course. Who could expect someone of his lineage to lay back and coalesce like some weakling? He'd been laid low, certainly, but nothing short of second death could keep him down. He was indomitable. He was hungry. Moonshine picked up on this and set the tray down over him, clipping it onto the handrails on either side of the bed. God-given tried to sit up, hissing as his ribs and shoulder protested loudly and fiercely. He still managed, not to be cowed by a little pain, swatting away Moonshine's webbed hand as he moved in to help. He examined his meal. A bowl of chunky, watery soup, a box of tutti frutti, and in the styrofoam cup was a single scoop of strawberry ice cream. He sampled the soup and was dismayed to discover it was an especially inept attempt at jambalaya. Still, it was food. As he ate his mind cleared, memories edged their way back in, Mr. Clean, the fight, the thing that happened. Light and sound and pain. What happened? Moonshine sighed and shook his head. That where Clean was neckin' with sucker punched us with a bomb. You and Bug got it worst, but me and Face caught some flack, too. God-given sucked his teeth in disgust. Damn it. We had him, too. We were so close. Ayu. Moonshine nodded. Boss ain't happy, though. Turns out we weren't supposed to attack him. Now, why didn't that little tidbit get back to us? God-given turned away from him, indignant. Would it have changed anything? He attacked us, remember? Sure enough, said Moonshine, counting off his claws. After we tracked him down, cornered him, and threatened him at spear point. We showed up because he was in the club and probably wouldn't pop us. But by the time we got there he'd already taken some poor but apart. The only reason we went after him is because you said to. Now we're in bits and boss is pissed. Got any choice words on that? We're warriors, not messengers, God-given growled. If he wanted to pass on an invitation he could have sent some peon, not his top lieutenants. It's overkill. It's insulting. Orders are orders, said Moonshine, gesturing at himself and then the bedridden demon. And the results speak for themselves. God-given was silent, his face dark with fury. Moonshine sighed and shook his head. You never got on with Clean. From day one he got under your skin. So, what, you got a grudge and we almost get killed because of it. God-given didn't answer, he didn't have to. What good would it do? Moonshine was a good lieutenant, a warrior through and through, but he had only ever been and would only ever be a criminal. God-given was different. He was royalty, destined for greatness. His cursed, maligned existence on Earth and his ignominious end was just another tally on his scoreboard, another slight to pay back. His father could unlock the secrets of heaven, the power of creation itself. He believed in his father, in his mission, from the bottom of his heart. He was his son, his heir, their destinies were intertwined. He himself was a powerful demon and a canny warlord, he'd earned his position in his father's organization. He deserved to rule alongside him. But clean? He didn't believe. He didn't even want to be there. All he wanted was to live quietly, like a plant. So why did his father insist on bringing him back into the fold? Why was he so important that they couldn't proceed without him? Why did his father obsesses over him? He was powerful, no doubt about it, but he lacked conviction, lacked passion. He only ever did as he was told and not a whit more. God-given conquered entire neighborhoods, exterminated whole gangs, all by himself. He was known and feared throughout the entire West Side. Clean was feared, but only because no one knew any better. The fact that hell itself checked the shadows for a disgruntled salaryman galled God-given to no end. Clean had everything. Tremendous power, a terrifying reputation, and his father's favor. He had everything a demon could want and more, and what did he do with it? Bemoan his lot. Resent his renown. And now he spat at an opportunity that God-given would have killed for. To call it infuriating was an understatement. If only they'd killed the BSTRD, or at least subdued him and brought him back to his father in pieces, maybe then the ridiculous myth surrounding him would finally be dispelled. I wanted to prove to him that we don't need him, said God-given after some time. That we can move on with the plan without him. He doesn't want to be part of our organization, he's made that abundantly clear. In any case, we accomplished our mission. We found him, we opened a dialogue, and we gauged his willingness to return to service. Moonshine sighed and nodded, a wry smirk on his face. That's a way of putting it. But the bossman is pissed, and you'll have to answer for that. God-given ate his jambalaya without much enthusiasm. He just might get angry enough to give us another shot at him. Moonshine threw up his arms and leaned back in his chair. You really got it out for him, doncha? Well, I hope you got a plan going in, because we're not going to catch Clean F somewhere while riding the Blue Dolphin next time. That ship has sailed. He knows we're coming now, and he's not F around. God knows what that lunatic is up to right now. Okay, everybody. Charlie cheered, standing in front of a whiteboard, the word hobby written on it and surrounded with smiley faces and stars. Today we'll be trying the hobby swap. It's a well-known fact that boredom and relapse go hand in hand. When you get bored, your first instinct will be to fall back on old habits that scratch that itch, resulting in relapse. What I hope to accomplish here, in addition to getting to know each other better, is to exchange calming and constructive hobbies that will help you manage your addictions. Any questions? Angel raised his hand. Yes. Angel. Angel glanced at Kira and then at Charlie. How's about this? Say ya F your own clone, is that gay or MSTRBTN? Charlie giggled and playfully waved him off. Okay, Angel. You know that's not. It's gay, said Kira, authoritatively. Charlie blinked in surprise and Angel scoffed, crossing his arms. Oh, yeah, right. Of course, of course. You want to clarify that position, killer? Kira shifted in his seat, his expression that of scholarly interest. Well, you see, if it's a clone we're talking about, then having SEC with them would be a homosexual act, as they are another being of the same section. But they're a clone, your clone, said Angel. They're you. No, they're just identical, physically and psychologically, but they're a separate being of the same section. Therefore, any SXL activity with them would be, by definition, homosexuality, or gay. Just because they're genetically identical doesn't matter. Identical twins are just that, but they're distinct people, and if they had SEC it would be considered homosexual. And NCST, too, obviously. Angel shook his head. Twins and clones are two different things. If we're talking about identical twins, they really aren't. Kira contemplated this for a moment. If we really wanted to get into semantics, one could argue that any hypothetical clone boning could be classified as NCST. Ha! Clone boning, Angel sniggered. AKA 66ing. Kira smirked. A doppelgangbang. The ol' auto-RTC enchilada. Angel countered. Twins with benefits. Charlie broke in, giddy at their candor. Okay, but what if instead of a clone, you yourself get cut in half down the middle and each half grows a new half? Kira nodded, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Like a starfish. Charlie tapped her nose and grinned. And then they F. Angel said. Obviously. Charlie turned to Kira. You'd have all the same memories and stuff instead of just being physically identical. Would that still be gay? Yes, Kira got up and grabbed a dry erase marker and limped over to the board, illustrating as he spoke. You see, the second the bisection happens, one half is physically seeing things from a different point of view than the other, and thereby becomes a separate person via the formation of a unique perspective. Both sides have the same memories and body layout, but now are perceiving reality separately, therefore creating two similar but distinct entities. It's that distinction that makes it gay as much as any sort of biological element. Whoa, said Angel, nodding. Deep. But would it still be NCST? Charlie proposed, sitting down in Kira's seat. Kira nodded. Inasmuch as identical twins having SEC would be. As it is, by definition, consanguineous. Charlie frowned and rubbed her chin. Well, that's a downer. Sort of puts a damper on the whole exercise. Tell me about it, Angel huffed. I draw the line at sibling slap and tickle. Shame too, I'm just about the only person in hell who could keep up with me. You'd know all your own moves, too. Charlie added. It'd be like chess. Sounds exhausting, said Kira before smirking and wiping the board clean. Ah, but I think I have a solution. Oh. Charlie turned to Angel, who was taking notes. By all means. Who here knows what a stable time loop is? Vaggie hummed to herself as she chopped some carrots, arranging them next to an assortment of other veggies on a platter. Mother Goose wanted some snacks for her wayward, helpless, murderous goslings. She felt different though, lighter. What had been bottled up and caged before was out in the open, free. The world was different and yet much the same. Also, Charlie was a surprisingly forceful kisser. Not a bad thing, no, definitely not a bad thing. Just, surprising. Her cheeks burned at the memory. Charlie was a lot of things, but passive wasn't one of them. Friendly and agreeable, certainly, but not passive. If anything, she could be stubborn and downright fierce when challenged. Lucifer didn't sire weaklings and Lilith raised no fools, Charlie needed her wits and a spine to survive that household. Still. She'd been surprised. The door swung open and Vaggie jumped, in walked Charlie, an especially happy smile on her face. How are the snacks coming along? Coming. Vaggie announced, still a little flustered. That's what she said, Charlie snickered under her breath. Nothing. She said and popped a cherry tomato into her mouth. Vaggie smiled at her elation, Charlie really was happiest when helping others. So, how's it going? Great. I got them to list all their hobbies and pastimes for the swap as well as a little explanation as to why they pursue those specific activities, Charlie said, producing a notepad. We're learning so much about each other. For instance, did you know that angeldust considers FLLT a pastime? I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. Are you gonna take up that one or will Kira? Charlie scoffed and shook her head. No. No SEC stuff. Almost all of Angel's hobbies are, not conducive to redemption. Except for makeup and ensemble crafting. Oh, we're going to have fun with that one. What about Mr. Clean? Vaggie said, crossing her arms. Any STMLTNG hobbies from him? Charlie grimaced slightly and drummed her fingers on the notepad. Well, he likes to, measure and collect his fingernail trimmings. Oh, well, yeah, I knew that. Vaggie chuckled, rolling her eye. From his profile. Gross, huh? Yeah, also not exactly. Well, he used them to gauge his chances of success at murder when he was alive. So, that's not really an appropriate hobby, either. It was really, surprising, and gross. I guess a rockin' bod will only make up for so much, eh? Oh, no, not at all. I still want to eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner off of those abs. I'd lick that plate clean. Charlie said, a playful, teasing moo on her face. Rub em on my face. Vaggie scoffed and lightly punched Charlie on the shoulder. I think you're spending too much time with Angel. I'm starting to see why he teases you so much. Charlie giggled. It's fun. God, that's just what I need. You two tag-teaming me, Vaggie grumbled, handing Charlie the platter. Here, you should probably get back to them. Who knows what trouble they're getting up to. Oop. Right. Charlie darted back out the door with the platter in hand. Thank you, Vaggie. Vaggie smiled and turned around to clean up when Charlie leaned back into the kitchen. Also, did you know that if you have SEC with your clone that it's gay NCST, but if you travel backwards in time and have SEC with your past self it's MSTRBTN? Weird, huh? She ducked back out again, leaving Vaggie to stand in amused silence, shaking her head. Now I don't know who to be worried about, her or them. Kira stared at his lump of clay, a dull red brick on plate atop a turntable. He was acutely aware of how, in his present condition, this could have been seen as some kind of jab. Sculpting with one hand wasn't impossible, but it was annoying. He only had to remember who put him up to it to dispel this notion, as Charlie was incapable of malice. Teasing, maybe, but not malice. This was one of Charlie's hobbies, pottery and sculpture. She seemed to have a wealth of pastimes, hobbies, and interests. Though, he supposed, she had to do something with all that energy. It had been a long day of inane time-killers, nothing particularly resonated with him. He was proud to admit that he hadn't felt the urge for quite some time. Perhaps all these funny little diversions were working. He could even admit that he found Angel's minor dissertation regarding lipstick fascinating. The importance of color coordination, which brands were best, and his surprisingly in-depth knowledge regarding the viscosity of certain makes and styles over others. You see, for day-to-day out on the town, lipstick, long-lasting or low smudge was preferable to more traditional makes. That said, certain clients preferred these Messier types for aesthetic kiss patterns, not to mention leaving the coveted high-water mark. Similar logic applied to mascara. All-day mascara was the most practical, but traditional brands ran pleasingly when the tears began to roll. No matter the situation, Angel took care to look exactly how he wanted, and even when disheveled and degraded he strove to look his best. Kira could respect that. Almost enough to not be completely disgusted. Almost. Regardless of his current disability, he was more than able to work the clay, to express himself. Working for Holy Diver forced him to hone his abilities, to mature and expand somewhat. He'd once had to break into a secured location, practically a fortress, and had been forced to develop a relevant skill. A trader divulged some information regarding the location of one of Holy Diver's caches of seraphim steel. It was Mr. Clean's job to erase the information and the informant. What initially seemed to be a straightforward B.E.M. break enter and murder soon revealed itself to be one of the most frustrating missions of his afterlife. The mansion was barricaded, with high walls, sensors, and a full platoon of angelic armed soldiers. Inside there were keycard locks, thumbprint scans, retinal scans, the works. The direct approach seemed to work well enough. The strength and speed lent to him by his stand allowed him to bypass the barricades with ease while sheer heart attack handled the guards and soldiers. During all the noise and confusion he killed his way through the facility, collecting cards, thumbs, and eyes as to bypass security. What would have taken an army all night he had done in 30 minutes. But the sniveling little bstrd that had stolen the information to begin with had forwarded the location to a contact of his the second the commotion commenced. Needless to say, Bites the Dust fixed that right up and Kira was free to try again. Again and again he had tried, and again he had failed. After about the 9th or 10th reiteration he'd been at the end of his rope. Breaching the facility gave the informant enough time to email the info. Bypassing the security was easy enough, but how to get in? Ironically, for all the sophistication of the inner layers, the main security kiosk was secured with a simple keylock. After an exploratory time loop, Kira was able to commit the shape of the key to memory. From there it was a simple matter to disintegrate the chaff off of a larger mass, in that case a manhole cover, and he had his key. The lock clicked, the security guard evaporated, and Kira walked out of that kiosk wearing a uniform with a keycard bouncing on his hip. A nice, quiet stroll through the mansion, and that whimpering little rat and the location of the cache had become so much smoke. Sometimes his work was creative and STMLTNG, though he suspected that it wasn't the same sort of creativity Charlie was talking about. He looked over Angel and Charlie as they discussed the placement of a single blob of clay. The goal of the exercise was to visualize something you cherished, or at least regarded as valuable, and replicate it in clay. Charlie surmised that Angel could do with placing more emphasis on the elements of his life not related to DRGS and PRSTTN, in this case a pot-bellied pig. He was doing quite well, though he was struggling with the curly little tail. Man! The second I get it wet enough to sculpt it falls apart, Angel said, squishing another collapsed pig tail between his fingers, wadding it up. It's a conundrum. Maybe you could just make it look curly? Charlie offered, fiddling with a piece of clay. See? Just texture a piece like this to look like a curly tail. And compromise my vision? Angel scoffed, outraged, flicking the clay out of her fingers. I want to commit my precious baby to immortality. That means his tubby lil belly to his pokey lil feet and funny lil nose and, this is important, his curly whirly lil tail. I want to show it to him when he gets back from his spa vacation. This conversation was both stupid and loud, so Kira decided to put a stop to it. He picked up a wad of clay in his right hand, a click sounded and the clay began to dissolve. Energy crackled and wisps of smoke carried away the evaporating ash, leaving behind a tiny, perfectly molded pig tail. He walked over to the arguing pair and carefully attached the tail to the sculpture. Angel said, examining the perfectly formed tail. Thanks. Kira didn't answer and sat back down, staring at his brick of clay. Charlie touched his shoulder and leaned over. Everything okay? He looked over at her and, slowly and painfully, gestured SOSO with his left hand. Charlie cleared her throat and chuckled, a little embarrassed. Right, would you like some help? Oh. I'll be your hands. She plopped herself down on a stool across from him, wetting her hands. All right. What are we making? Kira shifted awkwardly and looked over at Angel, who was fiddling with his pig, careful not to touch the tail. That's not the problem, actually. Okay. I'm not sure what to sculpt. Oh, that's okay. I never know what I'm making when I start out, said Charlie, gesturing at the clay. What we have here is potential. You can try and see your sculpture in it, like Michelangelo, or you can just squish it up and see where your creativity takes you. That's what I do, I just remove structure and then remake it into something useful. Like that ashtray on the front desk. Kira said. That was you? It was supposed to be a bowl. Charlie grumbled before snapping back into a grin. But yes. You could make something functional, like a bowl or vase, or you can make something that reminds you of something or someone you love, like Angel did. You don't need to know what you're going to make, just that you're going to make something. Kira pondered this for a moment. He reached out and poked the clay with his finger, suffusing it with power. There was a flash and a pop and the lump disappeared in a puff of smoke. Charlie gasped, her eyes widening in amazement. The smoke and ash swirled about, evanescing to reveal a perfectly molded pair of hands. The detail was exquisite. The creases in the skin. The texture of the perfectly pedicured nails. The plushness of the flesh as long, delicate fingers intertwined in an NTMT embrace. "Oh, my God!" Charlie muttered, leaning in. "It's appealing." "Hey!" Angel cried, pointing in an accusatory finger at Kira. "That's cheating." Kira gave a satisfied huff and smiled, admiring his work. "I'm starting to see your point, Charlie. This really is. I never even considered this. Committing my fondest memories to clay, it makes them more, I don't know, more real. Memorializes them." "Oh, Her eyebrows knit together as she wrung her hands. "I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, but I'm going to have to discourage you from memorializing your, ex-girlfriends. I don't think it's good for your recovery." "Oh no, these are my hands," said Kira as he examined his hand, his beast's paw with its fur and pads and claws, and frowned. "Back when I was, I always thought they were the most appealing hands in all the world. I used to love to see appealing hands in mine. It felt like they'd been completed, one set paired with another. I'd give anything to have them back. But, I suppose that this is good enough. Just seeing them again as I remember them is rewarding." "Really?" Charlie re-examined the sculpture. "Sorry, I just saw the long nails and I thought, you know what, never mind. This is a wonderful sculpture, Kira. Would you mind if I put this on display around the hotel?" "Not at all," Kira said, awash with strange but positive feelings. Charlie giggled and picked up the plate, carrying the hands off to the kiln to be fired. He watched her leave, a small smile on his face. This feeling, this light, warm feeling, what was it? God-given hobbled up the seemingly endless stairs. He squinted in the darkness, his injured leg grumbled at him as he strove ever onward and upward, making promises of pain and discomfort for later. His ribs were still knitting together, making his breath shallow and strained, adding to his struggle. Still, he did not stop, did not so much as slow his pace. His father had summoned him, and so he would. After what seemed an eternity he saw the door. He breathed a sigh of relief. He'd half expected that his father was pulling the old, endless staircase routine on him. He was wont to do that when he was feeling particularly contemptuous of someone. God-given reached up and grabbed the knocker and stuck 3 times. The deep, booming sound reverberated off the wrought stone walls, becoming a low, clattered echoes as they bounced about down the winding stairway. He waited. And waited. And waited. This was his price to pay for his ambition, for his impudence. To suffer his father's power plays while he labors a point. It was a tiresome, necessary thing. The door opened in a slow and deliberate fashion with a low, dry creak. God-given limped into the throne room. It was a large room, not ostentatious but hardly austere in its decorating. Holy divers' banners hung from golden pikes as candelabras and an elaborate chandelier cast the room in flickering orange light, the kind of light that bred ample shadows for his father to skulk about in. Boadicea and Crossroads, the 2 ever-present decorations wherever his father was, stood at attention. Boadicea bowed deeply upon seeing him, Crossroads merely nodded. These 2 knew their place, knew his status. At the head of the room, sitting atop a 3-layer dais, was his father's throne. His father sat shrouded in darkness, one leg canted atop another as he rested his head on one hand and held a book in another. His glowing red eyes did not even glance up at the visitor as he flicked a page, giving the impression of total engrossment. God-given knew what to do. Knew what was expected. He grit his teeth as he lowered himself to the floor, his injured leg screaming now as he knelt. Holy Diver took no notice, or didn't care if he did, turning yet another page. God-given could make out to the word Paradiso on the cover. Of course. Ever since his return, Holy Diver had been preoccupied with heaven. He'd held ultimate power in his hands, he'd known some form of godhood, but once again been cast back down to this pit. Now he had a plan, a goal, and the conquest of hell was the first step. All his pieces were in place, his return to hell was set to be a bloody, televised event. Killjoy would get her views, alright, and hell would once again tremble in fear at the mere mention of his name. But first they had to make their move and, for some unfathomable reason, Holy Diver would not commit while Clean was AWOL. He disappeared from his throne without a sound. The mechanical hissing of his breath now emanated from behind him, the dusty clap of a book closing and the low clunk of it being returned to its rightful place on the bookshelf. God-given, he began, his voice calm and even. I'm glad to see you up and about. I heard you took something of a drubbing. To fail to respond was something his father considered rude. To be petrified with fear was a common and appropriate reaction to his presence, but he called him here to explain himself, not grovel. It could have been worse. Oh, indeed. He said, now back in his throne. Must be an interesting story. Care to share? God-given ground his teeth together. We followed an anonymous tip to the Belial and Scratch apartment complex and got a positive track on Clean. An anonymous tip? Holy Diver frowned, tapping his armrest. That's troubling. It panned out. Even worse. It would be prudent to investigate that. God-given sighed and nodded. As you say, my lord, but our mission. Your mission. Holy Diver exclaimed, smirking. Do humor your father in his dotage. Could you remind me what that was, exactly? Our mission, as given by you, was to locate Mr. Clean, to make contact with him, and to assess his willingness to re-enter your service. God-given paused for his father to interject. When he didn't, he continued. We discovered that Mr. Clean had taken up residence in the rehabilitation center run by Lucifer's daughter. The heiress, mused Holy Diver. For obvious reasons, we did not approach. Instead, we tracked down an associate of one of the hotel's other occupants. She was able to convince this demon to get Clean out into the open where he would be less likely to try and make us disappear. And you had reason to suspect he would? Holy Diver wove his fingers together. Since your mission was merely to talk to him and make an offer. It was a precaution. Clean has avoided us for years up until this point, and he was never shy about voicing his dissatisfaction with this line of work. True. That night, our contact calls us up to tell us that Clean was at a nearby club, but by the time we arrived he'd moved on. After some digging we managed to track him to an overpass, where he became confrontational and attacked us. I see, said Holy Diver, rising to his feet. Because Moonshine and Poker Face mentioned something about bringing Clean back to me for a talk. I don't recall giving such an order. Though I am 150, and things must be slipping my decrepit mind. At least, that's the only explanation I can fathom, since the alternative is that you abused your position to fulfill your own agenda in my name. And that would be. He appeared in front of God-given, towering over the kneeling demon. Foolish. God-given didn't say anything. Well? Holy Diver demanded. The answer is not on my boot. Look at me and tell me, did you issue orders in my stead? Do you dare to think that you knew better than me? I extrapolated your meaning, God-given did as he was told and rose to his feet. He craned his head up to meet his father's burning gaze, hoping his expression betrayed nothing of his indignance and fear. Sending us, your top lieutenants, to find him and deliver a message, it's overkill. Subduing him was implied in our mission statement. You sent us because he'd have more trouble killing us than some peon, because we'd be able to fight back. And we did, we fought him and we would have won. If we brought him back you would have congratulated us, but since we failed while following your orders you punish us? Punish me? It's insulting. Enough. Holy Diver bellowed. I did not summon you here to stamp your feet and pout like an entitled little brat. Insulting? You insult my bloodline with your petulance. He set an enormous hand on his injured shoulder, squeezing with just enough pressure to be uncomfortable. His voice became low, filled with disgust. Little God-given. Little Donnie. Little boy. You scowl at the world and demand it recognize you, demand it respect you. True greatness doesn't demand respect, it commands it. Flowing through your veins is not only my BLD, but the BLD of my most treasured enemy. That you dishonor both lineages with your childishness is what's truly insulting. God-given couldn't bear to look at him any longer and glared at the floor, his clawed hands balled into fists. Look. At. Me. Holy Diver grabbed him by the chin and forced their eyes to meet. You want to prove yourself? To show me that you're worthy to rule all of creation at my side? Very well. I will give you one last chance. In fact, I will give you a gift. A GI. God-given began to say when a sharp, stabbing pain exploded at the base of his skull. His knees buckled and he collapsed to the floor in a heap. He felt it squirming, wriggling around inside his head like some insidious octopus, tendrils stretching out and burying themselves into his brain. He looked up to see his father towering over him, a single braid of hair undulating next to him, at its end was the spear-like depositor of a flesh butt. What have you done? I've given you what any good father would give his son, said Holy Diver, spreading his arms wide, his face alight with a manic grin. I have given you the world. A mission. What? What do you need me to do? God-given said, getting on his hands and knees, staring up at his father, his king. Bring me two things. Holy Diver held up two fingers. Bring me Mr. Clean and bring me the heiress. Some days later. A quartet of demons strode down the sidewalk towards the hotel. Their strides were long, confident, almost brash. They were on a mission and had every reason to believe they would succeed. Passers-by saw them coming and crossed the street. Onlookers notched their hats down over their eyes or found something of monumental interest on the ground. As they passed, demons removed themselves from the impending situation with promptness, not wanting to be caught in the crossfire. The quartet approached the door to the Happy Hotel. They were acting under orders from their leader, their overlord, their god, and they would not fail. For all was part of the inviolate plan. All would come to fruition. They would see hell itself reshaped and come under the rule of their most splendid MSTR. They knocked. A pink-furred cat demon with blonde hair answered. He wore a wary, cautious expression. Yes. Can I help you? The lead demon moved forward without taking a step. He was a white-skinned humanoid with black eyes and horizontal and vertical lines engraved into his pallid, bloodless flesh. At each intersection of these lines a single, bejeweled nail had been hammered down into the bone. His garb was no less ostentatious, leather and fabric interwoven with his flesh and sinew. Shining silver hooks pulled the white skin of his chest taut until it was as shiny and lifeless as leather. The butcher's smock he wore about his waist was festooned with veins that pulsed and throbbed as though alive. His thin, lipless mouth split like a wound, revealing diseased, yellowed teeth. When he spoke his voice was deep, ancient, like an echo from a dark cave. We are the Cenobites of the labyrinth. We have been dispatched by our Lord and MSTR. The god of flesh, the Leviathan. He reached out with a cold marble-white hand, clenched in fingers with bruised black nails was a pamphlet. To spread its good word to the denizens of hell. Did you know that the original purpose of hell was to redeem sinners through blessed suffering? The cat demon looked over at the other demons, a bald female with a flayed-open trachea, a round, moist lump of scar tissue with sunglasses, a faceless creature with no features save for a pair of chattering, BLD-caked teeth. Is that so? Indeed. The lead Cenobite crooned. Once a soul has undergone its penitence, it is released of its sins and made whole, nirvana through holy agony. The pretender Lucifer perverted the true purpose of hell, turning it into the overpopulated, hedonistic sty you see before you. It is only through suffering that true redemption can be achieved. I see, the cat demon said, his eyes glazing over. Well. We understand that this hotel seeks to do the same, said the female Cenobite, her voice a low flanging croak. Perhaps we can come in and discuss methods. He shook his head. Ah, well, you see I'm just a patient of this establishment. I can't really invite anyone in without approval from the owner. Is the owner in? No, she's not. Do you know when will she be back? No. He began to close the door. Good day. The lead Cenobite wedged his foot in the doorframe. Are you interested in seeking redemption through exquisite torment? No, I'm quite happy here, thank you, the cat demon said, allowing a small pause to pass. Also, I'd like you to leave now, because you fill me with disgust. For your soul's sake, he said, handing the pamphlet to him through the crack in the door. He kicked the Cenobite's foot out of the jam and slammed the door shut. Kira sighed and rolled out his shoulders, flexing his mostly healed wound. He raised his left hand and focused. His fingers clenched, slowly, feebly, until they formed a fist. He smiled to himself, all that experience he had with dismemberment had really paid off. He'd be back in working order in just a few days. Angel peered out from the rec room. Who was that? He looked up from his fist and shook his head. Oh, just some Cenobites of the labyrinth. Ugh. Angel rolled his eyes. The only F-airs in hell too creepy to screw. I mean, I'll do anything for money, but they do that SHT for fun. They wanted to talk to Charlie, he said as he walked into the rec room. To discuss methods of redemption. Ha! Angel barked, slapping his knee and patting the spot on the couch next to him. I'd let them in. Just to see the look on her face. I can go chase them down if you like, Kira offered, plopping down next to him. Ew, no. Angel shuddered and pulled out a piece of paper. Come on. Chuck left us some homework to do. Alright, what's on the docket? We did painting. Kira nodded, gesturing at the pair of canvases in the opposite side of the room, one a flawless replication of Bacchanal in honor of Pan by Sebastiano Ricci, the other a meticulously detailed oil painting of a pair of hands. Done. Next was needlepoint. Done. Kira held up a pair of pink mittens and an 8-inch enclosed tube of white cotton banded with pink stripes. Also, what is this? A sock. Yep. Just, not for a foot, said Angel, smirking as he checked it off the list. Kira dropped the sock, his expression that of flat disgust as he contemplated chopping off his hand. No. Vaggie worked hard to reattach it. That would be rude. And haiku? Kira held up a sheet and read aloud, to touch and be loved / I'm holding and held / the world in my hands. Pretty good. Angel nodded approvingly. Now, do mine. Kira sighed and rolled his eyes, reading from another paper. PP dingers and scotch / bagpiping and boogery / sit on my face, please. Angel stuck his nose in the air at Kira's distaste. I'm unappreciated in my time. Alright, what's next? Let's see here. Angel examined the list. Ah. Here we go. FLLT practice. Kira arched an eyebrow. What? FLLT. You know, Beej, Blumpkin, Bob-a-Knob, Deep Throat, Durbing, Gettin', Gobby, Havin', a Hummer, Playin', the Skin Flute, the Ol' Smoke-a-Pole, Sky FY, Waps. What's next on the list? Let's see here. Angel squinted at the paper, SDMY feet reach around. Followed by sloppy makeouts. Order of events is optional, synergy is encouraged. Let me see that. Kira snatched the paper from his hand, poring over the list. For one, fellatio is spelled with a T. Secondly, you can spell synergy, but not FLLT. Thirdly, this list is written on a cocktail napkin. What? A T? How does that make any sense? It has a sh sound. Felishero. No, no. You see, it stems from philatus, the past participle of the Latin verb felar, meaning to sck. Linguistic drift led to it becoming a noun, and English phonetics led to it sounding like a shun instead of a tion sound. Felito. Understand? English is weird. Kira scoffed and nodded. Glad I don't have to talk to American brokers anymore. All the, let me tell you this, and, konnichiwa Mr. Kare, drove me up the goddamned wall. The sound of the front door opening sounded from up the hall. Charlie's beaming face leaned into the rec room, grocery bags hanging off her arms. Hey! We're back, want to help us in with some of the groceries? Meh, Angel grunted. Yes, of course. Kira said, getting to his feet. Thank you. Charlie said as he walked over to her. Oh, it's so good to see you moving around. You sure bounce back quickly. Ah, well, I've had an excellent nurse, said Kira, taking the bags off her arms and following her out. Kiss butt, Angel grumbled and turned on the TV. On the screen was a trembling and thoroughly terrified reporter. She was a shapely young demoness with the head of a goat and the wings of a bat, her makeup ran with tears and sweat. Behind her, well off in the distance, was the Happy Hotel. THTH This is Rachel Wretch of CH Channel 666, reporting in from the west side. She took a deep, shrill breath and resumed, somewhat steeled. Not long ago the controversial Happy Hotel opened with little fanfare and more than a little skepticism. Since then it has been a source of constant public ridicule and of criticism toward the Luciferian rule. However, we here at Channel 666 have an inside source that claims that a powerful former assassin for notorious crime lord Holy Diver is residing inside the Happy Hotel. Oh. I mean, Holy Diver. This assassin, known as Mr. Clean, is rumored to have been responsible for between 1 and 10,000 disappearances, and has maintained his anonymity. Until now. We here at Channel 666 will bring you the first in-person interview with Mr. Clean ever attempted. She hyperventilated for a moment before turning back to the camera, her tone shrill. But we here at Channel 666 will compromise any moral code, bend any law both demonic and natural, and endanger ourselves and others to satisfy your morbid curiosity. Let's go. A large, blue, webbed hand set down on her shoulder from somewhere off camera. The hand squeezed the space between her shoulder and neck, giving her an amicable pat as a towering fish demon stepped into view of the camera. He set the pommel of his huge, brutal harpoon down behind her with a thunderous crack. As Rachel flinched away from him, a short, black, emaciated stag beetle demon brushed past her and gave a thick, clotted chortle. A gecko demon sprung silvery metallic cards back and forth between his hands as he walked by and down the sidewalk, winking at the camera as he made the card deck vanish with a flick of his wrist. Next, a tall blonde mole demon strode into view, his claws shod in shimmering, articulated silver blades. He smiled handsomely at the petrified reporter, tracing a seraphim steel talon under her chin, notching a finger and tilting her head up. His smile became a lot less friendly as he traced her neck with his deadly talons. He relented and patted her cheek with the back of his hand. He broke away and followed his two other companions. Rachel trembled, tears streaming down her face as the huge fish demon leaned in, his huge mouth splitting into a yellow thicket of needle-like teeth. "EY. You're a real sport, you know that." He leaned in and gave her a peck on her tear-streaked cheek. "Keep on truckin', dot." He licked the salty tear from his lips and followed after his compatriots, whistling jovially. Rachel collapsed into a blubbering heap. The operator set the camera down on the ground with utmost care before rushing to her side and pulling her into a tight, comforting hug. The feed cut back to a glaring Katie. TSK. pp. This just in, said Tom Trench before pausing for a moment. Wait, did they die? No, Katie sneered, tapping her fingers on the desk. So they have no excuse for not covering the story. Ah, okay. This just in, 2 positions have opened up at channel 666, said Tom, gesturing at the upper right-hand corner of the screen where the channel's web address flashed. If you're interested, please submit your resume to us online at www.channel 666 news. he/careers/new meet. We'll be happy to have you for as long as you last. Ha! Angel said, smirking. Oh. Angel sat for a moment, digesting what he'd just seen. Ha, OSHT. A thud sounded from the foyer. Kira. Charlie cried. What's wrong? What is it? Oh, F. Angel shot to his feet and raced to the rec room and up the hall. He rounded the corner to see Kira kneeling on the ground, his hand to his head, a grimace of pain on his face. Charlie knelt next to him, her arm cast comfortingly around his shoulders as the razzle and dazzle went about picking up the dropped groceries. She looked up at Angel. Angel. Something's wrong. They're coming. Angel exclaimed. Killer. Your buddies, they're on their way. It's him. Kira said, through grit teeth. It's Holy Diver. He's here. Kira, what's wrong? Kira got to his feet and shook his head, steadying on his feet. It's Holy Diver, he's doing this. Hold on. Kira reached down and grabbed the pamphlet up from the floor. Ah, perfect. What's perfect? Charlie said, picking up the groceries he dropped. What's going on? Those gangsters that jumped us on the overpass, they're on their way here. They're comin'. Angel said. We gotta get the F outta here. Running isn't an option. Kira stepped away from the door, ears laid flat against his head. God-given will find me no matter where I am. I'll have to fight. Vaggie and Husk burst into the room, searching for the cause of the commotion. Vaggie rushed over to Charlie, helping her gather the canned food on the ground. Charlie, what's wrong? What happened? Forget the F in groceries. We gotta F in book it. Angel said, ever more agitated. We got Holy Diver's hit squad rollin' up the street lookin' to make a Hazbin shish kebab. Oh, God. Vaggie's eye went wide. What do we do? F me for saying this, but the bug's right, Husk said, shaking his head. We can't fight these guys. We gotta get gone. There a back door to this joint, Chuck? Charlie nodded and shot to her feet. Yes. There's fire exits all over the place. Let's go. Charlie took off down the hallway and the rest followed after, except Kira. Charlie stopped and turned around, beckoning him over. Kira. Kira. Come on, the exit's this way. You go, said Kira, folding the pamphlet in half lengthwise. I'll buy you all some time, maybe take a few of them with me while I'm at it. F***ing A. Husk exclaimed, nodding in agreement. Kira, what are you talking about? Yeah, said Angel, incredulous. What? No, you're comin' with us, right? He folded the pamphlet corners down diagonally, not meeting their gaze. I'll head upstairs and draw them away from you. They're scared of me, so they'll try and take me in a group. I should be able to keep them occupied long enough for you all to escape. Oh, not this again. Charlie's expression became set and hard as she marched over to him and grabbed his sleeve. You're not turning yourself over to them. I won't. Shut up and listen. Kira snapped, yanking his sleeve out of her grasp. This isn't just about me anymore. Holy Diver's making his move. He wouldn't attack this place if he wasn't prepared to face the consequences. That means he's coming for you, too. He'll kill everyone here and take you as his prisoner to use against your father. That's why you have to run. She looked up at him. Kira. F that. Angel cried, his eyes blazing. No way am I leaving a buddy to fight alone. I got AF in arsenal upstairs. I can. Kira reached out and set a hand on Angel's shoulder, shaking his head. Angel tried to retort before relenting and nodding, eyes cast down to the floor. F in Suggs. None of that, said Kira as he pat his shoulder, a soft smile on his face as turned to the rest of them. Now go, all of you. We don't have much time. Charlie rushed forward and hugged him tightly. Be safe. And you, said Kira, patting her head. She reached up and cupped his cheek before heading off down the hallway. Husk shot Kira a short, respectful nod and followed after with razzle and dazzle. Vaggie stopped and turned to Kira, a hard-set expression on her face. Guess I was wrong about you. I wish you weren't. Kira smiled wanly as he resumed folding the pamphlet. Protect her. With my life, said Vaggie, looking over at Angel. You coming? Yeah, said Angel, jabbing a thumb upstairs. Just gonna grab my stuff, we'll need some gear if Killer can't dust these chumps. I'll take the fire escape and meet ya at the rally point. Vaggie nodded and set off down the hallway. Come on. Angel clapped Kira on the shoulder and raced up the stairs. Kira followed him, still fiddling with the folded paper. He smirked and stopped at the top of the staircase. With a delicate flick of the wrist he threw a simple paper airplane. It dove, picking up speed before flicking upwards and leveling out, gliding languidly through the foyer before veering away from the door and landing softly in the far corner of the room. That done, Kira resumed a brisk, leisurely pace to the second floor. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 7. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author WriteAnon on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.